Hi, this is Jamila Husain, the editor-in-chief of Daily Mirror. We are just days away from a very competitive presidential election where 38 candidates are eyeing for the presidency. Now the biggest question is this: how should I go and cast my vote on September 21st? So there are three options which are going to be available, which I will explain to you now. Option number one, that is, when you go to the polling booth and when you have your ballot paper in front of you, you will have a list of candidates on your ballot paper. When you go, you will have a choice of your main candidate in mind. When you see that, you mark 1 next to that name on the box. After that, you will be given 2 more preferences. So for your second preference, you mark number 2. And then for your third preference, you mark number 3. Now that is option number 1. That means you get to mark for 3 candidates. The main candidate where you will be marking 1, your second preference where you will be marking 2, and your third preference where you will be marking number 3. Then we have option number 2, which will be that you will be marking number 1 for your main candidate, and you might only have 1 preference and not 2. So for your second preference, you mark number 2. You don't have to mark number 3 if you don't want to. That is option number 2. And then we have the third option, where majority of Sri Lankans have been voting for in the past of the previous presidential and general elections. And that is only to vote for your main candidate and not having any preferences in mind. Now when you see your ballot paper and you have only 1 candidate in mind, the Elections Commission this year has encouraged people to mark number 1. But what majority Sri Lankans end up doing is, when they have only 1 candidate in mind, they mark X. Now this is also not wrong. Those who mark X next to their main candidate, their vote will also be taken into consideration. But as I said earlier, this year the Elections Commission encouraged people that if they have only 1 main candidate, please mark 1. Now how do you mark these votes? We will be given boxes. Ensure that the 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2 or even 1 or even X is within the box. It does not exceed the box. If it exceeds the box, there may be a question that whether this vote should be taken into account. Now, September 21st is the presidential election. Voting will begin at 7 o'clock in the morning and end at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Please go on time. Now, when you approach the polling stations, what are the documents you need to cast your vote? This year, the Elections Commission has given a list of documents or cards that you can present to the polling officers to cast your vote. So I'm going to read it out here. First of all is the National Identity Card. Now if you don't have the NIC, you can carry a valid passport. Mind you, it should not be expired. It should be a valid passport. If not, you can bring a valid driver's license. Then you can also present a pensioner's card if you are a pensioner. For the disabled people, the Elections Commission this year is organizing a disabled identification card, which details is right now available on the Elections Commission site on how you can make an application. Then we have the Elders Identity Card, which you can get from the Social Welfare Department. Then the Elections Commission is also providing temporary ID cards for those who do not have their NICs, only to come and cast their vote for the September 21st presidential election. Then we have the Registration of Persons Department, who will issue a special A4 size paper which will confirm and certify the voter's identity, since currently the country is running short of identification cards. So these are the list of cards which you can present to the polling officers when you go to the polling stations on September 21st. Then comes the question of disabled people, those who are on wheelchair. How do they go and cast their votes? In majority of the polling stations across the country, trams will be set up where these people can be taken in their wheelchairs. They either can be assisted by one family member, or if there is nobody accompanying them, the elections officers will accompany them, take them to the place where they can cast their votes and put it into the ballot box, and then after that they will be assisted outside. This year, talking about disabled people, in some of the polling stations, especially in the upcountry, facilities of these trams will not be available. So what happens then? When you arrive at the polling station in a wheelchair, the elections officers will come down, they will make arrangements for you to cast their vote downstairs, and then they will take your ballot paper upstairs and do the needful. So therefore, they encourage all people, even who are on wheelchairs this year, to come and cast their votes because facilities have been made. Now comes to the point of blind people. For the very first time, the Elections Commission has made arrangements for blind people to come and cast their votes. How is this possible? When a blind person enters the polling booth, they will be assisted in some way, and the Elections Commission officers will take them over. When they go to the polling booths, or when they go to the place where they have to mark their votes, they will be given special facilities where the elections officer will read out the candidates' names, and then they can mark their vote. After which, then the ballot paper will be folded and it will be put in the ballot box, and they will be after that safely assisted outside. The information which I just explained to you was shared with us with the Elections Commission, and the Elections Commission this year has encouraged all voters to come cast their votes because all facilities have been made available. As I said before, this year is one of the most competitive presidential elections Sri Lanka is facing, with 38 candidates. So please go early so that you avoid the long queues and you can cast your vote. Best of luck in selecting your next president.